Hi folks, G3 here, and welcome to another instalment of my journey to go green. Today's episode is another one of my gardening catch-ups. So this is what I've been working on in the last couple of weeks, just to maybe give you a little bit of an idea as to what's going on in the garden, the kind of things that you could be doing. I've got my gloves, my trowel and secateurs, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be weeding this stretch of garden outside my front door, because I've got them planted a number of bulbs in here. So I've got some lovely snowdrops that are out in flower now, and some little daffodils as well. And I've got bits and pieces that are going to be coming through soon, lots of bulbs. And also I've got weeds to clear away and some dead debris from the ferns that I've got in here as well. I've been waiting for a suitable time to do it because it's been a bit cold, windy, and it hasn't been particularly pleasant. So now we're getting towards the end of February. I thought it was high time that I should get out and take advantage of it being dry. Reason being is that if I've got all of these nice bulbs here, then really I want to display them as best I can. I need to clear out the weeds and the debris, and so that's my first task. So I'm going to be getting on with that now. Now, because I've got quite a few bulbs tucked in here, it's quite a good idea waiting until this sort of time to see when they are poking through, to give me more of an idea where they are, because otherwise you could be digging in and damaging the bulbs. So I'm going to be going very gently, teasing around the soil and gradually moving those weeds out. I do tend to use my fingers quite a bit rather than just the trowel, because the soil is loose enough that I can just work away at the moss and the weeds quite easily. It just helps me keep control rather than going in with the trowel rather forcefully. At first I wasn't really sure about the sort of plants that were weeds and which were sort of flowers that I should leave in there and bulbs. I wouldn't say I'm still 100% sure. But because I work the same plot year after year, I do notice things and can sort of tell the kind of plants that appear to be weeds. It gives me a little bit of a better idea as to what I should be pulling out. It doesn't take long for it to start looking tidy. This is the kind of task that I like to do in a lunchtime. I'm very fortunate to work from home. If it's a nice day, I get the chance to pop out for lunch break into the garden for an hour, just to clear my head, get some fresh air, and make a little bit of progress. And all these little hours of activity all mount up, and it doesn't take long for it to start looking tidy. I don't like clearing this away too quickly, because it gives an opportunity over winter for insects to potentially be on the dead wood. But now we're getting towards spring, when things are coming out. I'm just doing a little bit of tidying of some of it. A lot of dead on this fern here, so I'm snipping it right back, and that would regrow. There'll be fresh growth curling through. Trimmed the fern back, removing a lot of the dead leaves, and then that'll regrow this year from this very healthy plant that's here. That's one job done. Looks a lot tidier now. Doesn't take long. Little bit of a weed, and it starts looking a lot brighter, giving more space for the bulbs to come up through and to show off the flowers. These snowdrops are really looking good now. Each year after they've grown, I will separate the bulbs. They're best to move when they're in the green, which is mean once they've flowered, but they've still got their stalks, that's the best time to separate and move them. So what I'll do is I'll dig up a clump, split the bulbs and move the bulbs elsewhere. So that's why I've got them dotted around here. And it just, you can only need to buy like 1 pot or 2 pots, and you can start separating the bulbs out over time, and you get a really nice spread. And these ferns that I've got will bring on some growth later on, so they're looking healthy at the moment, but the fact I've taken back all the old matter now just gives a little bit of space around for other things to come through, and it will start all jumping into life. Good job jobbed. Another one of the weekly tasks I need to perform is repairing the fencing around the raised beds. So I've got a little bit of fencing here which is used to keep the animals off, because otherwise the foxes and badgers keep getting onto the raised beds, and obviously during the season I don't want that, because they'll be damaging the crops that are in there. So it's just a case of tying these in. I've got some twill here, which is twine made of wool, and I'm going to just tie these in around the bars that I've got to keep those in place. The twill that I'm using is actually from presents, Christmas presents. It's stuff that we saved at that time of year that have been used to wrap parcels. Actually, I'll probably do both in one here, which will be useful. Yes, so we use this twill to tie up our parcels and make them look a little bit prettier, and so we save that and can reuse that in the garden. Better. Right, so that's one bit done. I've not worried about doing bows. I've just tied knots on here because I can easily cut it if needs be, and obviously this is then compostable because it's made from wool. Right, just check the rest of it to see if anything else needs doing. Right, that one's all tied in. I'll just check the others, but yeah, that's another useful job, just making sure that these are secure. On to the next job. Last season I planted garlic in these beds on my terrace, and they grew okay, not wonderfully well, but they were okay. We got a reasonable crop off them. The thing about garlic is that you shouldn't really grow it in the same bed for approximately 4 years. The reason being is that you'll reduce issues with soil-borne diseases if you're moving them around. So it's part of a crop rotation system. Now I've got 3 raised beds, and I also use this area here. The raised beds I rotate crops in, so they're on a 3-year cycle there. Here I don't really do that as much because they're kind of individual beds. But what I am going to be doing is weeding these beds, putting in some leaf mould that I've got from my parents. I'm going to mix that in so there's extra nutrients in these beds, and I'm going to be growing garlic in a different bed. I won't be growing it in these, where I grew it before. I'm going to grow it in one over there. Now you've seen a few weeks back that I planted the garlic in little containers, and they've been growing quite well, so it won't be long before I want to get those out, which is why I'm looking to prepare these beds now. So that's another one of the tasks this week. It's just weeding these beds and getting the leaf mould in and turning that in so there's extra nutrients in these beds. That's what we're doing now. And these weeds and grasses that I get out, I will simply put into our compost bin. These beds are quite full, so I'm not too fussed if I take a bit of soil out with the weeds, because I'll be replacing it and keeping the level reasonably high. So, okay, so this bed's now clear of weeds largely. And what I'm going to do, I've got some sacks of rotting leaves, some leaf mould that I'm going to cover over here and then turn in. So get those now. Okay, so we've got these in some old plastic bags, reusing them for this. And I got this from my parents, and what they've done, they collect up the leaves from their lawn every year and they pile them all up in a pile and let them degrade. There we go. So this is the leaf mould. It started breaking down in the sack, but there's still quite a bit of the way to go. Previously, I've gone and put these in the compost bin as part of the breaking down, but the quality of these beds, it's not great. They used to be just parts of the terracing that weren't really used for anything in particular, which is why I've started growing crops in them. But I have sieved them to remove loads of chalk that was in there and to try and improve the soil, and now I need to try and get in extra nutrients. I have put compost on here in the previous years. I just need to keep improving the organic matter that's in here so that it becomes a better growing area, because although the garlic did okay last year, it wasn't great, and I'd much rather there was a better quality of growing media here. So I'm just going to empty these out and mix them in. And some of the bags have split, but the ones that haven't, I'm going to try and reuse as best I can so they get plenty of life out of them. There we go, some lovely leaf mould. Now, if you weren't going to be using this bed for a while, you could, in theory, just leave it on top and let nature take its course, but I want to be using this season if I can, so I'm going to turn this over to try and advance how quickly that happens. It's just a case of getting in and mixing it around with the soil. There's quite a bit of wood matter in here as well, so that will take time to break down, and it does mean that I'm not going to be able to use this bed for sort of root crops where you want the roots to do well. So things I'm talking about like parsnips and carrots, where you want the nice straight roots. I'm not going to be able to use this bed for those, but perhaps if this is a little bit below the surface and the soil on top's going to be okay, then I'll be able to use it for crops like salad crops maybe. Get some lettuce in here, some radish, spring onions, that sort of thing, where it's all above the surface and you don't need to worry about what's happening below the surface. Right, that'll do for now, and I'll probably turn this over again at a later stage and mix it in further. So I've got another bed to do this to, and then I've got weeding of the area where I'm going to be putting the garlic into. But I've reached the end of my lunch break today, so I'm not going to be able to do any more. I would encourage you, no matter how much time you have, even if it's just a little bit, if you can regularly spare a little bit to work in your garden, then why not do that? Because you will see over time that you are making a difference just with those little time slots. Even though in the particular day itself you might not see that you've actually achieved a huge amount, I mean, collectively, it will soon add up. Well, that's it for this gardening update this week, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please click the like button down below. And if you haven't done so already, why not subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you get notified when I load up a new video. Well, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.